Hello everyone, Leaf Reed here, and today we have The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I didn't realize he had two R's. I just noticed that. I thought it was J.R.R. Anyway, The Hobbit. I guess maybe I should just begin with a brief kind of statement. I love Lord of the Rings. I have never actually read the books. I love the movies and the world and the lore and some of the games too. But of course everyone said, oh yeah, the first book is a bit slow, and sure enough I've read a bit of it and it was, yeah, this is kind of slow. I'm not really into it, and plus I've seen the movie, so I don't really need to imagine it. So I want to just preface with that. That's kind of where I'm coming from. I've never actually read a lot of Tolkien's work, but I've read short stories here and there and bits and pieces and whatever. But I still love what he created, or what Peter Jackson interpreted his creation as. Which is why I'm about to say that The Hobbit, I really dislike this book. I don't like it. And I've heard people say, oh, well, it's children's literature. It's meant for young boys, young girls. It's meant for young... I would have hated this as a young boy. I don't like this at all. I don't know what to say. You have the 12 dwarves and they're all going about and having their adventure. Also, I hated the Hobbit movies. I hated how, and it was really weird to me too, because I knew how long the Lord of the Rings books were. And it's like, okay, each book is a movie. That makes sense. This right here, see this? This is this is a couple hundred pages that you're stretching into 3 movies. It's not going to work. And sure enough, it was filled with a bunch of filler and trash and very questionable things that, fortunately, I read this before those movies came out in anticipation for those movies. I thought it would be one movie, but it's 3 movies. And I thought to myself, how are they going to, stretch this out? And of course, as you read it, you're like, oh, okay. They mentioned a guy in this book, and now that guy that they mentioned as like a side story is now a character in the movies, which I think is one of the wizards. I don't even remember his name. It starts with an R. I want to say reindeer, because he has all those like things that pull his sleigh-like thing. And there's also the warrior, the orc warrior that they mention, but I'm almost 100% sure he's mentioned in the book, but he's actually a character in the movie. They're like, oh yeah, the great orc, and then that's it. That's all they ever say of him. But in the movies, he's like a character. Anyway, I don't like any of them. I don't like any of the Hobbit media, whatever. I like Lord of the Rings. I don't like the Hobbit. Anyway. And just Smaug. And I understand it's supposed to be, oh, there's like Bilbo and he's like a little guy and you're supposed to relate to him, and then you're supposed to go on an adventure. It's like, hey, I'm a little guy, I'm a kid, and then you have the Bilbo and Toby and then they all, and the dwarves are bouncing around. There's a magical forest, and it doesn't feel like a kid version of Lord of the Rings. It feels like a cheap McDonald's version of Lord of the Rings. It's something that is almost pandering. It feels something almost like patronizing, almost is the word. That this is what old people think kids like, and it's some crappy McDonald's toy. I don't know. I did not like this, and I understand the concepts of like overcoming your fear and facing the dragon, and it's very, obvious, I guess, and unsubtle. And just a different kind of vibe than the actual Lord of the Rings. Also, it's funny, it's considered a children's book because the text here is very small. And I mean, that's just, the publisher. But, it's all like, oh, even though you're small, you can do great things. Like George Lucas's Willow, which I'm thinking of right now, which I kind of like Willow, to be honest. I don't know why. It started off extremely cringe in only the way George Lucas can do, and then it eventually becomes kind of endearing by the end of it. I don't know. That's a very hit or miss movie. But yeah, I don't like The Hobbit. I don't like people who recommend The Hobbit, because I don't know who this is for. If it's for children, No, I wouldn't recommend it. Is it for fans of Lord of the Rings? No, I wouldn't recommend it. Is it for children who are fan of Lord of the Rings? I might recommend it. But unless you really need more Tolkien, then I guess, yeah, this is a place to go. But I really did not enjoy any of this. It didn't have, like, I've read I read other sort of medieval fantasy growing up, things like Del Toro Quest, and I love Del Toro Quest. At least I loved it as a kid. I don't know if I'd go back to it now and have the same reaction I have to this, but yeah, I don't know what else to say. I didn't like this, and I do not recommend it to anyone. Yeah, but that's it. There are plenty other of engaging teen and kids, or like yeah. So I was the Torah Quest, Aragon. I preferred those over this 100 times. But yeah, I think this is honestly a poorly written book, and I'm sure that'll end me up in chains and ropes and bonfires. But that's my opinion of it. Anyway, I'll see you guys later, and as always, please keep reading.